Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really pushing past the usual diet talk. We're going deep into the ketogenic metabolic state.
Right.
And not just for weight loss, but as a real mechanism for preventing chronic disease.
Yeah.
And, keeping your brain at peak performance for your entire life.
Our mission today is really focused. We're pulling from a stack of clinical sources,
Yeah.
and they're all led by the insights of an internist with, I think, 25 years of experience.
Okay.
And we're using them to understand why chronic illness has become, well, the default for so many. The source is very critical of what it calls the medicine 2.0 approach.
And what exactly is that medicine 2.0 approach?
It's the paradigm we're in now. It's reactive. You treat the symptom, but you almost never fix the underlying cause.
You have high blood pressure, you get a pill.
Exactly. You get a pill for that. High cholesterol, you get a statin. It's all about managing the markers of decline, not, fixing the metabolic chaos that caused them in the first place.
Right. So the big idea here, the really revolutionary idea in our source material, is that the key isn't more treatment. It's learning how to make and burn ketones.
Yes, routinely.
Routinely. So you're basically training your body to abort that destiny of chronic problems that just ruin your quality of life.
It's all about re-engineering your internal operating system.
Yeah.
You're moving from a system that's constantly making trash to one that's constantly taking it out.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the core problem. And the sources are really clear on this. Most people are unknowingly walking around making what they call buckets of insulin.
Buckets of it, yeah.
We know insulin's job is pretty straightforward, right? It just moves sugar, glucose into our cells for energy.
The problem isn't the insulin itself, it's the chronic excess of insulin. It's when your diet is just this constant flood of sugar, your pancreas keeps pumping out more and more insulin to keep up.
And then your cells just stop listening.
To stop listening, they become resistant, so the insulin stays high in your circulation.
Yeah.
That is the chronic disease maker.
And what specifically does that damage? What does that chronic high insulin state do?
It's system-wide. It causes inflammation everywhere. It contributes directly to high blood pressure. It can fuel the growth of certain cancers. And this is critical. It creates debris in the brain.
Okay, so it's a maintenance problem. The sources have this really powerful analogy about trash. How does high insulin mess with the brain's cleanup crew?
Think of high insulin as a permanent traffic jam. It literally prevents the body's natural cleanup mechanisms from doing their job.
So the garbage trucks can't get through.
They can't. And this debris, this trash, it just builds up between the cells, in your brain, in your skin, in the brain that looks like depression, brain fog, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. The trash literally does not get taken out until the insulin levels come down.
And the sources point out this whole destructive cycle gets a huge boost from two modern habits: processed foods and eating late at night.
Oh, absolutely. Eating late is sabotage. You're jacking up your insulin right before you go into your main repair cycle, which is sleep. You're basically telling the cleanup crew to take the night off, every single night.
So for anyone listening right now wondering, is that me? Am I in that high insulin state?
Yeah.
What are the physical signs? The sources list some really specific, almost strange ones.
Yeah, beyond just weight. The first is abdominal girth. It's where the fat goes first. But the really interesting stuff is on your skin. Skin tags are a huge red flag.
You mean those little mushroom-like growths, usually in the armpits or on the neck?
Yes, exactly. They have a little stem, a little neck. The source is adamant about this. It guarantees these are from high insulin and that they will shrink and fall off when you get your insulin down. They're physical proof of a growth-promoting state.
Wow. That is a powerful sign. What about that velvety skin condition?
Acanthosis nigricans. It's darker, it's thicker, almost velvety skin, usually on the back of the neck, sometimes in the elbow creases. People think it's dirt.
Right. They try to scrub it off.
They scrub it raw, but it's not dirt. It's the skin itself responding to those out-of-control growth signals from insulin. If you have that, you are profoundly insulin resistant.
And then there's the long-term cost. The sources mentioned hairless toes or lower legs.
Yeah, this is after decades.
Yeah.
Decades of that chronic inflammatory state. The body just starts making decisions about where to send resources, and over time, the tiny blood vessels in your lower legs and toes just get starved. No resources, no hair. It's your body showing you it can't even maintain the basics anymore.
That paints a really compelling, if a little scary, picture of the problem. So if high insulin is the culprit here, how does shifting to a ketogenic state actually fix the underlying chemistry?
Well, the fix is based on a metabolic law. You cannot make ketones while insulin is high.
Okay.
And you can't do it while your glycogen stores, that's your packaged sugar in your liver and muscles, are full. You absolutely have to burn through all that stored fuel first.
And this is where people get tripped up. It's not an instant switch, is it? The source had some pretty shocking examples of how long that can take.
Oh, it's a huge struggle for the seriously resistant. We heard about a patient, 100 pounds overweight, eating just 20 total carbs a day. It took 15 days.
15 days just to see a ketone.
Just to pee a ketone on a strip, yeah. Or think about Dr. Boz herself. After having 3 babies, she was very insulin resistant. It took her a 22-mile fasted hike to finally push into ketosis.
Wait, a 22-mile hike? That sounds incredibly discouraging for someone who might just manage a 20-minute walk. What does that tell you about how much stored sugar they're carrying around?
It tells you the barrier is real, it's physical. But the good news is, once you break through that wall, once you become metabolically flexible, the body remembers how to do it. And the benefits are just transformative. It's all about the fuel itself.
Okay, tell us about the fuel. Why are ketones so much better?
They're just a cleaner fuel source. When your cells burn glucose, they create a lot of metabolic byproduct, a lot of trash. Ketones burn with way less residue. They basically create an antioxidant state inside the cell. They cut down on oxidative stress at the source.
And for the brain, this is a huge deal.
It is the ultimate brain hack. Ketones just sail across the blood-brain barrier. So even if your brain cells are insulin resistant, meaning they're starving because they can't pull in glucose, ketones give them this alternative, high-quality power source.
So this is more than just getting rid of brain fog. We're talking about real cognitive enhancement.
Precisely. Ketone fueling leads to peak performance. We're talking greater concentration, more discipline, less impulsivity, and mood stability. The difference between a sluggish, high-carb brain and a ketone-fueled brain is it's night and day.
And it's not just mental. The sources link it to physical resilience, too. Faster muscle repair, less inflammation.
Right, that chronic low-grade inflammation, that's what makes you feel old and stiff. You lower that with a cleaner fuel, you feel younger. The source even cited a study on military personnel. After 18 months of keto, they showed a 50% increase in power output. 50%.
That's incredible.
And maybe the craziest sign of cellular health returning. Some patients on keto have actually reversed their gray hair.
That is compelling. Okay, let's pivot to how to actually do this. For the listener who is ready to make the switch, how do we practically achieve and then sustain this state?
The first steps have to be aggressive, especially if you're resistant. First, carb restriction. We're talking less than 20 total grams of carbs per day.
20 total, not net. It's a hard line. A lot of plans let you subtract fiber. Why is the source so strict about that?
Because if you're already making buckets of insulin, there's no room for error. The source's direct quote is, fiber is for farting. It's blunt, but the point is you have to count every single gram of carbohydrate to force your insulin down to rock bottom. It's just non-negotiable at the start.
Okay. And second is timing. The sources say as we get older, when you eat becomes almost as important as what you eat.
Appletely. You have to quit eating late at night. Your body is just less equipped to handle food after dark. The clinical insight is shocking. 1 bite of food after 6:00 p.m. is like eating 10 bites before noon.
10 bites.
You're just fighting your own biology. You have to move your calories toward the morning, maximize that overnight fasting window for cleanup.
And third, the fuel itself. How do you stay full and tell your body it's safe to burn its own fat?
You have to put the dietary fat up, eat more eggs, fatty cuts of meat like brisket or ribs, pork belly, even butter. These high-fat foods crank up satiety and send a very clear signal to your body that says, it's safe, there's plenty of fuel coming in, you can start mobilizing the stored stuff now.
And if someone's really stuck, really struggling to flip that switch, the sources suggest something called the sardine challenge. What's the deal with eating only sardines for 3 days?
Sardines are like a superfood. They're cheap, they're nutrient-dense, packed with good fat and protein. So for someone who's stuck, 3 days of just sardines, as much as you want, is like a shock to the system. You're giving your body everything it needs with 0 carbs. It forces it to finally tap into its own stores.
And there was that amazing anecdote about the patient, Jane, who did a 100-day sardine challenge.
Yeah, that showed profound metabolic healing. Jane's vitamin D levels, which is a fat-based hormone that high insulin traps in your fat cells, her levels jumped from the 30s and 40s, which is deficient, to over 100.
100.
That huge jump proved her insulin resistance wasn't just down, it was reversed. Her fat cells were finally letting go of that crucial hormone.
So to sustain this, the sources talk about something called the keto continuum. What are the key parts of that for maintenance?
It's basically a 12-step process to stay metabolically flexible. After you get into ketosis, you slide into time-restricted eating, a 16.8 schedule. But for people with 15 or 20 years of high insulin, that's not enough.
And that's where the prolonged fasts come in.
Yes. Intermittent prolonged fasts, 36 to 72 hours. Those are for the deep metabolic reset. That's when you really let the body's internal machinery do a complete overhaul. It's the highest level of trash removal.
And quickly, on supplements, what's recommended?
Vitamin D and magnesium are the big ones. Magnesium is like the body's spark plug, and almost everyone is deficient. Creatine also gets a mention for focus and brain function. And the source makes a point to say the fear about it harming kidneys is often overblown.
Let's connect the dots back to the high stakes. We talked about brain debris, the trash leading to Alzheimer's. We often hear Alzheimer's called type 3 diabetes. Why is that?
It's called type 3 diabetes because it's fundamentally a problem of the brain not being able to use glucose for fuel. It's because of that same chronic insulin resistance we talked about. The glucose gate is jammed shut.
So the brain cells are starving.
They're starving. Ketones bypass that problem completely. They offer this alternative, high-quality fuel, which immediately boosts the brain's energy and lowers inflammation.
So you're suggesting a dietary change can actually start to reverse cognitive issues that we thought were permanent.
Clinically, yes. The source shared this incredible story of a Down syndrome patient who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. 3 weeks into keto, she spoke her first 3-syllable word. It just shows that when you give the brain the fuel it's starving for, function can come back, and fast.
That is just incredible. What about cancer? The sources mentioned the Warburg effect.
The Warburg effect is the observation that cancer cells are. Well, they're greedy sugar feeders. They thrive on glucose. The ketogenic state does two things. It dramatically reduces their primary food source, glucose, and it also lowers insulin and something called IGF-1.
IGF-1.
Insulin like growth factor 1. Just like insulin, it's a powerful growth signal. So by keeping glucose high, you're constantly pushing these growth signals. Keto turns down the food and it turns down the growth hormones. It makes your body a much less friendly environment for cancer.
And that personal story about Grandma Rose just perfectly encapsulates this.
It really does. She was on chemo, and they expected maybe a 30% drop in her cancer markers, but after 6 weeks on keto, her markers dropped 70%. The doctor said the chemo helped, but she became a new human by changing her metabolism, by taking out the trash. The keto state didn't just fight the cancer, it gave her mood stability and protected her muscle mass during that incredible stress.
So we bring this all full circle. What this deep dive has shown is that so many chronic illnesses are actually predictable, sometimes a decade in advance. You see the signs, the skin tags, the foggy brain, the belly fat. And the mechanism for reversal is, at its core, simple. It's about lowering insulin. It's about shifting your body to a fat-based metabolism. It is fundamentally about taking out the trash.
And the key is achieving metabolic flexibility. You want to train your body to use both fuels well, but to always have that easy on-ramp back to ketosis, that flexibility. That's the key to vitality and cognitive sharpness as you age.
This whole discussion just reveals that if you're running only on glucose, you are constantly making cellular trash, but you're never giving your body a real chance to clean it up. So considering the source says a healthy person can flip back into ketosis in as little as 12 hours, what small, powerful step, like moving your last meal closer to sunrise or getting really strict with that 20 total carbs rule, will you commit to today, just to prove that flexibility to yourself?
We hope this deep dive gave you the tools to at least start thinking about that metabolic shift.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.